Okay, all the action from Patna now. Chief Minister Jitan Manjhi is meeting the governor for 15 minutes. That meeting coming just about half an hour ahead of the crucial trust vote that Jitan Manjhi is facing. The governor is stated to give his address to the assembly. The JDU is boycotting the governor address in protest. MLAs arriving, as we saw earlier, with black bands strapped on their mouth. We'll try going full frame to those visuals that you see on your screen right now so that you are able to gather that this is the cavalcade which is actually heading towards Raj Bhavan. Now, just adding a bit of perspective, Chief Minister Jitan Manjhi has made a surprise visit to Raj Bhavan before the start of the joint session of the Bihar legislature. This is the latest information that we are getting because he was not scheduled to go and meet the governor, Kesri Nath Tripathi. Those are visuals there on your screen right now of the Bihar Chief Minister going to meet the governor at the Raj Bhavan. We have TV Today's managing editor Rahul Kamal now joining us on the phone line. Rahul, could you take us through what exactly is happening at this moment?
Well, in a surprise move, Bihar Chief Minister Jitan Manjhi decided to pay a visit to Kesri Nath Tripathi, the Bihar governor, this morning. Now remember, Kesri Nath Tripathi is a BJP man, even though he holds a constitutional post. The Janata Dal United has been alleging that he's been acting in a partisan manner by giving the Chief Minister more time than he should have. However, what remains to be seen is how many MLAs is Jitan Manjhi able to muster. We know that the phone lines have been working overnight. Several attempts have been made. Some of them caught also on sting camera by an MLA who caught Pappu Yadav trying to induce JDU, RJD MLAs to come on board and to back the BJP and Manjhi. So those games are being played out. Yesterday, we know that 98 JDU MLAs were at Nitish Kumar's dinner, also 22 RJD MLAs. Now, if these people turn up and they vote for Nitish Kumar, then the game in Bihar is over. Manjhi's vote is singing. The question is, are there Trojan horses?
Rahul, just sorry to interrupt you there. Are you getting any news that Mr. Jitan Manjhi could have offered to resign? There is some news coming in at this moment. He has met the governor perhaps to offer his resignation. What are you hearing?
This is one of the theories that was mentioned, and the reason for this is that Jitan Manjhi realized that he probably doesn't have the numbers with him. We don't want to jump the gun and go by unconfirmed sources just yet, but we do know that this is one of the theories that were being mentioned because the fear was the fear.
Okay, Rahul, let me just quickly update you there. This is a news that we are getting in the TV Today news feed that Jitan Manjhi has resigned after meeting the governor. There is now an official confirmation that Sujit Jha, our reporter, is actually getting us. Jitan Manjhi has now resigned after meeting the governor. We'll come across to you, Rahul, in just a short moment from now. Do we have Rohit with us? Rohit is on the phone line with us. He's where exactly this incident has happened. Rohit, can you confirm and take us through what exactly has happened post that meeting?
Well, Sanket, the news we are getting is that at 10 o'clock this morning, Jitan Manjhi went to the governor's place to meet him, and he was there for 15 minutes. And after coming out, and the news we are getting from Raj Bhavan sources is that he has resigned before the floor test. And he was there for 15 minutes, and there were speculations rise that he may have gone inside the Raj Bhavan and to put his papers and resign. And now we are getting confirmation that he has in fact resigned as the Chief Minister of Bihar ahead of the floor test. So it is obvious that Manjhi could not muster the numbers for the floor test despite BJP's backing, and that is why before the floor test he has as the Chief Minister of the state.
So in effect, let me quickly come back to Rahul. Rahul, are you there with us?
Yeah, I can
Rahul, this in effect means that the suspense is over.
That's absolutely correct. And this is one of the things that he mentioned, that if Jitan Manjhi feels he doesn't have the numbers with him, then he might not want to go ahead with the floor test. And that's exactly what's happened, because in the way that the Janata Dal United was able to keep its flock together, it became very clear that Manjhi's game plan of trying to split Nitish's flock wasn't working. And that was apparent at the feast last night. That's the story that we put out. He simply didn't have the numbers. So instead of just going ahead for the sake of going ahead with a vote of confidence, he's in fact chosen the more honorable way of going out and putting his resignation with the governor, because he realizes that he simply doesn't have the numbers with him. And understand, this is exactly what the BJP also wanted in some sense, because they realized that their game plan of trying to split the JDU wasn't working. Therefore, they didn't want Jitan Manjhi to win, because if he'd won, then all the anti-incumbency that had built up against the Manjhi government would have come on the laps of the JD or of the BJP. They didn't want that. They wanted to show that they're supporting the Manjhi Sarkar. They wanted to show the Dalit icon was being insulted by Nitish, but they didn't necessarily want Manjhi to run the government for 6 months. So both have been able to make their point. Now, Jitan Ram Manjhi hopes to emerge as a pan-Bihar Dalit icon. The Dalits in Bihar are at least 16% of the total electorate according to the latest census. These people, especially the Mahadalits, have voted in great numbers for Nitish Kumar, even in the Lok Sabha elections last year when his party had been decimated. That's the game plan of Amit Shah and the BJP. They're trying to tap into and break that vote bank. Now, will that succeed? That's the game that will unravel in Bihar over the next 6 months.
And what about, Rahul, the grand alliance of the RJD and the JDU? Just spell out politically how do you politically foresee things developing in the state of Bihar in the light of this resignation?
Mutton curry. I had long conversations with JDU, RJD, Congress, CPI, MLAs last night, probing them on whether an alliance is possible. Remember, they've been trying to make this alliance happen for at least 4 to 5 months now, and they haven't succeeded. And the reason they haven't succeeded is because there is a lot of acrimony between local level cadres of these two parties. Remember, if you do a deep dive into electoral data and actually study the JDU and study the JDU victories in the last assembly elections, in several of the constituencies where the JDU won, it's the RJD that came in number 2. So their vote bank is imperiled if the JDU and the RJD come together. Those are the local level tactical problems in the micromanagement of this alliance. However, at the top leadership, they realize it's a battle for survival. They realize that the only way to win, and Delhi has shown the way, is if the opposition both unites. If the Congress had done well in Delhi, the Aam Aadmi Party wouldn't have been able to do well. They realize it has to be Modi versus the rest. That's the only way to put up a tough fight against the BJP. The senior leaders want to come through, but then also, Sanket, as you well understand, on the ground, in the villages in Bihar, the Kurmis and the Yadavs don't get along. Nitish Kumar comes from the Kurmi community. It's only 2 or 3% of the total electorate of Bihar. The Yadavs have been the dominant political force in the recent political history of Bihar, and the Yadavs were dislodged from a democratic perspective, quite violently, Rahul, by Nitish Kumar. So those are real problems in trying to bring this together.
Absolutely. Rahul, we'll leave you at this moment so that you can come on a live feed with us and tell us exactly what is happening at the Vidhan Sabha. In the meanwhile, we have Mr. Manoj Jha of the RJD with us on the phone line. Mr. Jha, appreciate you joining us here on Headlines today. Can you give your assessment, your party's assessment of what has actually happened? How does your party look at this particular decision taken by Jitan Ram Manjhi?
You know, in fact, there were very few choices available with Mr. Manjhi. And I tell you, very few choices available with the BJP. In fact, Bihar did not deserve this kind of uncertainty, this kind of complete breakdown of constitutional processes. I think Bihar is relieved today because it's a budget session. We had to talk about socio-economic priorities, and nobody, not Jitan Ram Manjhi, I will not blame him. The fact is, BJP national leadership wanted to have a narrative, a new narrative for Bihar, and that has failed. That is substantial.
No, Mr. Jha, many MLAs of the RJD too were, perhaps supporting Mr. Jitan Ram Manjhi. Do you feel that he has been able to disturb, the sort of an alliance that you were trying to work out with the JDU ahead of the assembly elections?
Not at all. Rather, I would go contrary to your belief or your assessment that it has further helped us cement not only alliance, we are going to merge. It's a question of merger now. Alliance was of the past. It has only helped us cement.
Okay, Mr. Jha, appreciate you joining us at this moment. So that's the assessment of the RJD at this moment. They feel that Mr. Jitan Ram Manjhi is that social glue who will actually get the RJD and the JDU together ahead of the state assembly elections. We have Rohit Kumar Singh, who actually got us this news earlier in the day. Rohit, so this basically means that the suspense is over. We perhaps any sort of floor test is inconclusive now because Jitan Ram Manjhi, the Chief Minister, has resigned. Just take us through what exactly to expect now.
Well, Sanket, very difficult to understand now what will happen from here on because Manjhi has now resigned as the Chief Minister of Bihar. Now, the governor was supposed to arrive here at 11 this morning and he was supposed to read the speech of the government. now the government is no more in place. He has resigned as a chief minister. So there is a big question now, what will be the next plan of action? What will the governor do? But as far as Manjhi is concerned, there is celebrations here at the assembly. JDU MLAs along with RJD and Congress MLAs, they are celebrating here. This news has come as a big surprise for them, but they are happy, and they said that the governor knew from the first day that Manjhi did not have numbers.
Rohit, do we have any information that sometime around 11:30 a.m. Mr. Jitan Ram Manjhi is likely to hold a press conference? There's news coming in. We just want a confirmation of that.
There is news coming that he will be addressing a press conference in a short while from now, where he will be making it official that he has resigned. But one more news what we are getting is that by the end of the day today, Nitish Kumar can meet the governor and once again stake claim to form the next government in Bihar.
Okay, that was actually my follow-up question. What happens, for how long will Jitan Ram Manjhi actually remain the caretaker chief minister? So, two bits of breaking news that Rohit Kumar Singh is giving us at this moment. Number one, Jitan Ram Manjhi, the outgoing chief minister, will hold a press conference at 11:30 a.m. to explain his position. And number two, Nitish Kumar, the former chief minister of Bihar, is likely to stake claim for government formation. He'll meet the governor and stake claim. So two bits of breaking news coming in at this moment in the light of developments that have taken place just 15 minutes back, where Jitan Ram Manjhi has met the governor, Kesrinath Tripathi, and offered his resignation. That's the latest coming in at this moment. Let's quickly take a short break at this moment in this news bulletin, and we'll be back on this top story. All right, the big story that we are tracking at this moment, breaking news. The Bihar Chief Minister, Jitan Ram Manjhi, has met the governor. He has offered his resignation. He's expected to hold a press conference at 11:30 to explain his position. Remember, the odds were tilted against him. And that has happened, in fact, ahead of that crucial trust vote in the Bihar Assembly. The latest that we are getting is Nitish Kumar has also reached the Assembly. Let's go across to Rohit Singh, who joins us on the phone line. Rohit, the two things that you are in fact telling us is that number one, Jitan Ram Manjhi has resigned. Number two, he's expected to hold a press conference at 11:30. And number three, which is the most crucial, Bihar will get its next government by this evening. At least Nitish Kumar is going to stake claim to government formation.
Well, absolutely. After Jitan Ram Manjhi has resigned after meeting the governor, it's now only a formality that Nitish Kumar will be once again formally going to meet the governor by today evening and will be staking claim to form the next government in the state. And it is possible that in the next couple of days, the swearing-in ceremony will also take place. But what has gone wrong as far as Manjhi is concerned is that
जो भी स्थिति होगी वो माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी की तरफ से स्पष्ट किया जाएगा.
Okay, that was one of the MLAs, and from the sound of it, it almost appeared as if he supports Jitan Ram Manjhi. These are JDU MLAs who are protesting outside the Bihar Vidhan Sabha. Let's go across to Rohit Kumar Singh on the phone line. Rohit, just explain to us what exactly is happening at the Vidhan Sabha.
Well, there is excitement in the Nitish camp. Nitish Kumar has just arrived at the Vidhan Sabha after getting news that Manjhi has resigned, and there is celebration. The JDU party leaders are all saying that they knew from the very beginning, from 7th of February, since this crisis was created, that Manjhi never had numbers with himself, despite that he was hanging on to his post. And he also says the people of the state were also suffering because of this attitude of Manjhi. And also they say that the governor by